Good evening and welcome to the Chaska City Council meeting for Monday, April 1st, 2024. We'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Will you please stand and join me in pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Just like to say thank you to Pro Tem Gra for taking care of things the last couple meetings, and thank the rest of the council. I've been dealing with some medical issues. All's good now, so hopefully we won't have to go through that again there.
Pretty short meetings, just so you know.
All right.
No,
Well,
no expectation.
As Matt says, we control how long meetings are, so just remember that. All remember that. All right, with that, Lisa, will you call roll, please?
Councilmember Hatfield.
Here.
Councilmember Hubbard.
Here.
Councilmember Wong.
Here.
Councilmember Grant.
Here.
Mayor Winchell.
Here. All right, next we're gonna move to adopting the agenda. Are there corrections or additions to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Councilmember Hubbard,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hatfield to adopt the agenda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. Motion carries. Moves us to visitor presentation. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on visitor presentation? All right, we'll pass. No one's here. So now we'll go to 6 approval of the previous meeting minutes. And this is from City Council meeting on March 18th, 2024. Again, if there are no corrections or additions, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hubbard,
Second.
second by Councilmember Gra. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. Motion carries. All right, move on to item 7, consent. These are items that need our approval, not necessary conversation, but any and all can be discussed if necessary. With that, is there anyone that's got a comment regarding any item on consent? Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, really?
Sorry, I was talking to Andy from Red Bench Bakery, but he said he has nothing to say, so he's here supporting it.
Only comment is just excited for what you have in store for the community.
All right, motion to approve consent.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Hatfield, second by Councilmember Wong, approving consent. Discussion. Excited to see that happen, so kind of cool. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. Motion carries. All right, moves to item 8, which is a public hearing approving Chaska Police Department drone policy.
Mayor and Councilor, the item in front of you tonight is one that we actually had members of our police department come a few meetings ago to talk about, and which we budgeted for this year, which is unmanned aerial systems or drones to be used for public safety purposes. One of the things that's a requirement by Minnesota state statute is that prior to us actually deploying this into our system, we have to hold a public hearing to be able to explain what we'll be using these drones for, and basically give people an opportunity to ask any questions or express any concerns. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Chief, who will talk a little bit about the drone program we'll have in place.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. In a minute, because he did such a good job last time, I'll turn it over to Hunter, because what I would like to do before presumably you'd open the public hearing is just have Hunter give you a brief recap of what we discussed last time in terms of how the drone program would be governed, how it would be used, and then obviously address any questions that you might have, because ultimately you'll see before you the request for action, if approved, would grant us the ability to purchase the 2 public safety drones and also implement the policy. So I'll turn it over to the topic expert.
Mayor, Council, thanks for having us again tonight. Back on February 5th, I presented to you
about my request to purchase drones for the police department. If you remember, we talked about some of the benefits, some of the times or instances we wouldn't use them, and then the idea of hosting a public input period. So that's now completed. And if you remember, some of the top situations we're going to use this drone for include during or in the aftermath of an emergency situation that involves the risk of death or great bodily harm, over a public event where there's a heightened sense of a heightened need for security of the participants, and then over a public area for officer training or public engagement or public relations, and then at the written request of a different government entity. And this is getting at perhaps the electric department needs our drone to look at a transformer, or the water wants to look at the water treatment center or whatever. We're happy to help with anything, but they do have to request that in writing. Some things I wanted to highlight that we won't use this for, per state statute, to conduct random surveillance activities. We can't use it solely based on someone's protected class. We can't harass, intimidate, or discriminate against anyone with it. And then we can't conduct personal business of any type.
But you could if you had reasonable cause, correct?
Yeah, we just can't do it specifically based on someone's individual characteristic. That's protected. We did do a public comment period. We opened it the day after I presented to you all on February 6th, and then we never really closed it. So I guess tonight would probably be the end of that. We did receive 2 emails. That was the only 2 things we got. Just to kind of summarize those. One woman said that she wanted us to purchase American-made drones. And then she hyperlinked a link to some article about the DJI company, which is what we're going to be purchasing. Quite frankly, American-made drones thermography, or the thermal imaging, is leaps and bounds behind DJI, which is what we're purchasing. So that's kind of they kind of have the market right now because of their ability to make that really crisp thermal imaging. So that was one. And another man said he had concerns about one of the uses, and that was the last one, at the written request of a government entity. And I'm not sure what he was getting at with that, but I can say, even if the electrical department, the water treatment, or the water department, what have you, we still have to remain constitutional, and we're still the operators. So nothing we do is going to jeopardize our role. So I wish he was here so I could talk with him about that, but I really don't know what he's getting at with that, other than, of course, even if we're using it for a different purpose other than law enforcement, we're still going to remain constitutional.
Question. So the electric department was requesting saying, well, I'll go up, look at this transformer in this area, in this neighborhood. Does that request need to be made public, and then it has to sit for so long so people could say like, hey, that's by my house, I don't want that there? Or is there a reporting period, request period, or what is the nature of that? Because also it sometimes reduces convenience from those other departments, but it also it helps communicate to others. So I was just curious, and I don't think we discussed that last time.
Officer Panning, like I said, is the topic expert, but I believe that would be part of our annual reporting that we have to submit as any type of usage, and, you know, like other things that we file and collect downstairs, any type of written request we'd file. And quite frankly, there would be no reason, if a member of the public or, you know, someone else presumably requested said data, there'd be no reason to compile that and share it.
What I'm hearing you say, there's no like required posting period before they could use it. So like request goes in, has to sit for 7 days, then you can go use it. It would just be filed. It could be used later that day, if that's realistic timeline. Okay, I was just curious if there was like a mandated period of time on that post.
Verbatim from the statute. It says, for purposes unrelated to law enforcement at the request of government entity, provided that the request is in writing and specifies a reason and a period of use. So there's no waiting period.
So if the water department, for as an example, the water department said, hey, I want to investigate like some issue with like the, the cell receiver, the cell transmitters on top of a water tower. It's like gonna be really hard to get someone up there today, but can you send up a drone to take a look at it and make sure there's no damage from hail or whatever it is? They send you a written request. Does it have to be like paper written, or would just an email be suitably?
It doesn't, the
acceptable?
statute doesn't specify. We'll develop an internal request form or what have you.
Yeah.
So because, but in any case, but they'll submit the request and they say, then from there you say, yep, it's approved because we have someone available and it's, it seems like a reasonable use. Go out there, send it up. Is that recorded, or is it something that they would or wouldn't have the ability to record? I mean, I guess technically you can record it, but would it be something that would be allowable to be recorded or not?
You're talking about the video footage?
Yeah, for the video footage, if let's say they're inspecting the
Yeah.
cell equipment or something.
It can be recorded. It would just be based on need.
There's not any restrictions or anything like that on there. Okay.
So as long as we're on here, I think I asked this at the last time, but in an emergency situation, do you have to go through that many channels? Or can you just request that I needed, say, whether it's at a fire scene or you have a weather related incident and you need to look at power lines? Are those things, is that like you can go, just call you up and say, hey, we need a drone? Or does it still got to go through this written?
No, that's a good question. My train of thought on that is anytime we would respond to an incident, which your scenarios, we would be there anyways, we could deploy it without the request of someone else. So a house fire, we're gonna be there. Severe weather damage, we're gonna be out anyways. So if we're there already, there's no need to request it.
And if the pilots, if there's not a pilot on duty, what kind of timeline do you think it takes to get somebody there?
That's an internal thing we're gonna have to figure out.
I mean, I would suspect, Mayor, I mean, it depends and it's variable on who's available from the drone team. And, we do have members on there that live in the community, assuming they're available, it'd be drive time from their home, but
You say there's 4 pilots?
5.
5?
There are some logistical things that we'll need to kind of draw out as this pans out, but I think that's all I have. Those 2 comments were the only ones we received. It was opened by mail, email, and then we posted on all of our social media to request public input. So.
and it is also worth noting that since we last spoke, I think on February 5th, like Officer Panning had mentioned, there's at least several, maybe even more instances where we've had children or other persons that are vulnerable in the community that we've been actively searching for. And I can tell you with the use of this technology would greatly assist in those efforts.
No, I think it's a good thing. I think you're seeing more and more of the benefits of a drone system, and it's, it's not like it's not like a pilot. You have to have somebody manned up in the air always, so we can just, get it up and deploys real, pretty quickly. So, I think it's a good addition to our city and the police department, so.
Yeah, I think it's a really cost-effective way to add a lot of capability for, especially with search and rescue, that sort of thing, when someone's vulnerable, needs to be found. I think we saw like some examples of that. It's a really, really great tool. It can really save lives and really benefit our community in a huge way. So I think it's a great asset that we'll be bringing on board. So thank you guys for taking it on.
And I think your comment about it saving money is a big one, and not just for city, but multiple resources or multiple jurisdictions. I mean, every time the state patrol helicopter has to come down, I mean, that's a real expense to come down. And I know I have a friend that's a pilot for the state of Minnesota, and they used to do a lot of their stuff for engineers as far as flights over roads and stuff like that. And he even talks about how they're switching so much more over to drones because it's so much more cost effective, and you can usually get to the place where you want to get to a lot easier than you can with some of those bigger assets that you have. So it's real cost effective. And, like you said at the beginning or end of the staff report, The real fortunate thing here is that we have the public safety state aid dollars that we received last year, and that can go towards it without it having an impact on our general fund budget.
Have you guys talked about mutual aid, how that'll work? I'm outside of the city.
You know,
I know we all go back and forth.
Yeah.
But has that been discussed?
yes and no. I mean, like Hunter alluded to, I mean, there are some things internally, logistics that we're gonna have to iron out, but you know, it is my general philosophy that if there is a mutual aid need, you know, I would be agreeable to looking at that. But again, it really is what is being requested, making sure that falls within the scope of our program, making sure it's, you know, within our policy. But generally speaking, I think, Mayor, the answer would be yes, if it fell within policy, state law, and in our program.
You know that'll happen sooner than later. And that's what I just want to make sure that you've got that internal piece set in place and whether or not you have to have mutual aid agreements, however that all works, but I think that's just a good one to make sure when you talk about your internal stuff, to make sure that you have that figured out as well. Cause it won't be long and you'll be chasing out of the city.
Yeah, so, yeah, I know you said the last time Victoria Fire Department has one, but does Carver County, does the sheriffs, do they have?
So
Yeah, no?
I've heard rumors or some information that they're in the early stages of trying to adopt a drone program with the sheriff's office. I haven't heard that officially, but if that does come to fruition, I do see some examples where there could be some collaboration between our agencies as well, which would bring a benefit. You know, if you have X number of operators at the county, we have operators, just ensuring that if a drone needs to fly, in some instances, making sure that we get operators there. Also with technology, and we always say one is good, two is better. But if we have a prolonged incident, you know, battery considerations, other things, it just brings even more benefit.
What's battery? What's the battery capability bias in terms of flight time with the drones we're purchasing?
With prime conditions, up to 40 minutes. Wind and rain and what have you, or how heavy we're using the camera, it'll depend. But we do plan on purchasing several batteries, so. And this specific drone, you can hot swap it, it's called, so you can land it, switch batteries, and go back up in the air with it all powered on still. So it doesn't have
Oh,
to-
really?
Yeah, it doesn't have to reboot or shut down the camera.
Is it recording to an internal device and then also, like, is the camera recording on a redundancy where it's got two, like,
It's recording to the remote, and then that recording saves into an SD card.
okay,
And then if we need to keep that for evidence, we'll upload that to our evidence.com system.
okay. Okay. Not powering it off doesn't lead to any incidents of corruption of data or anything along those lines? Interesting, okay.
Any other questions?
Great stuff.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. This is a public hearing. So at this point, I'm gonna open the public hearing at 7:18 and ask if there's anyone that would like to speak on the drone issue we have before us, or the drone policy and program.
Matt seemed pretty worked up about it.
Oh, I thought Lyndon was coming in, but no, I guess not. All right, with that, we'll go ahead to 7:19. We'll close the public hearing. And with that, I would look for a motion to approve the Chaska Police Department unmanned aerial system operations policy.
So moved.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Wong,
Second.
second by Councilmember McGraw. Again, this is a motion to approve the Chaska Police Department unmanned aerial system operations policy. All right, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate
Let's
it.
get a little badge, like a little drone thing too. Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
There you go.
All right,
Too.
next we are on 8B, public improvement hearing to adopt resolution 2024-33, ordering improvements for the 2024 downtown project.
Mayor and council members, this one is more of a sort of a belt and suspenders sort of action. You've seen the downtown improvements we're doing with the paseos and the walkways and historic walls and all that. We have the map up here that shows that. As part of the process of this, we're funding this through actually selling debt and then assessing it, but we're assessing it to ourselves. And so we're assessing it to different properties the city owns. And so in order for us to go through that process of assessing, we have to follow the 429 process for ourselves. And part of that is actually holding an improvement hearing where basically we have to take comments on from anybody who might have questions, comments, concerns about the improvements themselves being made. Hold that public hearing, and then the next step you'd see us taking would be the actual assessment hearing, which again, it's an assessment hearing, but it's an assessment hearing to assess ourselves. So it's likely not a lot of people here, but
Yep.
that's the gist of the action here. Matt's been working, putting together this project and moving it along. So I'll turn it over to him if he has any comments.
Yeah, no real comments. I mean, more or less for those folks that may be watching. So general timeline to deliver what we're talking about this summer, which is wayfinding, streetscapes, elements that are kind of finishing off the downtown theme, paseos, all of the very nice facade that is part of that project. There will be little impacts to the businesses. We're going to try and minimize the amount of disruption. But there'll be multiple projects. So just because of the unique nature of how these things are made up. So landscape and irrigation, there'll be multiple bids that will come through. So the council will over time probably see 3 different bids for what we're referring to as the 2024 project. All things said, the assessment numbers and things are all based on packaging that all 3 as kind of the 2024 project. So as Matt said, once we have the bids back, we'll obviously be putting forward recommendations to you that if things are acceptable, that we would award the projects and things, and then come back at a later date once everything has been, the dust has settled and we have all of the project costs, that we would have the assessment hearing, trying to time it with the public safety campus, I believe, Matt. So probably sometime in June is when we would go out and look for those debt sales and things for these improvement bonds.
Related somewhat on this topic. The yellow, it's shown in yellow here, where it says future street reconstruction. Is the rest of those streets done in 25, or would that be 2 different projects? What's left?
So the roads around, just around that yellow part there, we're trying to do those in conjunction with the redevelopment of that site.
Okay.
So that we don't, do the roads, and end up tearing them up.
So AKA if we have funding for City Square West and that part were to move up, that would take priority at that point.
Yes.
Okay.
The ones around City Square, we just had a long discussion about all the restrictions we have of doing things with roads. We're still figuring out exactly how we're going to do those. So we don't have timing on that. Probably the 2 remaining easiest streets for us to do is Elm and 3rd Street West. There's a channel that goes through there as well. Those will not be this summer, and I don't know, Matt, if you had viewed those as a next summer.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it would be in the city's best interest to time those just from a cost perspective. There's just, if you were to carve off anything, beyond what Matt had just mentioned, it becomes kind of that cost prohibitive. I mean, is it a project that folks would be, the smaller they get, sometimes the more expensive
They get.
they get. So no, they're not in the immediate. We don't have, from a maintenance perspective, I've talked to Brian. There's not a true, real demand here. I mean, we can still maintain the streets and, this is a matter of, and the utilities that are underneath them, yes, they're old, but we're in survival mode. So there's no real pressing need. I think the folks that I've heard from are, really excited. They would like to get it, done.
Picked up a few emails recently,
Yeah, and I have too.
regarding some of those streets. That's why I asked the
Right.
question.
I think what I will do is, in particular, I think there's two folks that have reached out to me is just kind of to get back to them and understand, so that they can, it might not be the right answer that they want to hear, but their streets are coming.
I was just curious. So thank you. That answers my question. And I appreciate you responding to those responses as well.
I will.
So all these costs were already bid as part of the project. Now it's just paying for them.
Yeah, so the process we're going through now is basically the process we use to finance it.
So, yeah, so then I think what I'm hearing is, were they bid as a part of the 41 project? They are not.
No,
But they were
they're
part of
the overall.
they were all part of the approval process that we went
We just
through.
didn't bid this piece of
We
it.
didn't bid
Exactly.
these pieces because they weren't state or federal funding eligible.
I was thinking we bid all this. I got it.
Yep.
No, and Matt's exactly right. It's because of the types of funds that are being used for it, because we had federal dollars on Highway 41, which carry with them different restrictions. Then like this will be all local dollars.
Yep. Any questions on things that are teed up for this
So-
summer?
Talking about some of these things that are being done, they were set up in parts of the street reconstruction as we were there. Was there money put away for that now we're gonna use to like put in the plaques and around the benches and stuff like that, or was that never bid and now that's just all bid as part of this project?
Second thing.
So it's, okay, so
It's all
they were never bid?
Yep.
Okay, but they were just all set up for the
They're
plaques?
set up for the stuff to go in.
Okay, cause I remember having a conversation, yeah, we were working with the Historical Society for the stuff to put there. And I thought we were gonna do the plaques, that's why I just thought they just got on a back burner. So, okay, got it.
Ultimately, it comes down to a funding source.
Wait, what?
Funding source, right? So, I mean, we're at that critical stage right now that says, just delivering the things that we had planned for. That's what we're implementing this summer.
Any other questions? So we're talking about roughly 2.6? Okay,
Yeah, the estimated project costs are right now they're estimated at 2.6. That includes delivering all of those things we talked about for 41, and then all of those elements that are contributing to the new trail. So the regional trail, I think there's a few kiosks and some wayfinding elements that are not eligible as well, again, for federal funding. And those would be non-participating for Carver County.
we did get some money for that trail.
Yep, about $1.6 million to.
So this 2.6 doesn't represent the whole cost. It just represents our cost.
Yep.
So I just was kinda making sure.
Yep.
Right. Anyone else? Questions? I asked a lot, sorry. but if anyone else has any questions. So this is a public hearing then, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so at this point at 7:30, we'll open the public hearing regarding the ordering improvements to the downtown 2024 downtown projects. So with that, is there anyone that wants to speak? And there's no one in the audience, so we'll warp up to 7:31. And if there are no further questions on this, I would look for a motion to adopt resolution 2024-33 ordering improvements for 2024 downtown project.
There may be someone
I don't know if there's anybody online.
There's no one online.
else. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not, no, we're not. Okay,
It's beyond me, the technical side of knowing who's online or not online.
all right, so we're still closed though, correct? 7:31, I closed it?
Yep.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to again, adopt a resolution 2024-33 ordering improvements for the 2024 downtown project.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hatfield,
Second?
second by Councilmember Long. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign. Carries. That ends our action items for this tonight. Next we move on to bills. Anyone got a question on a bill?
Yep, I have a couple. Two questions.
Matt.
And let's see, so first is on page 8, there's one for the American Public Power Association, basically it's our annual dues. So I wanted to kind of understand what the benefit of being part of the American Public Power Association is versus MMUA, which is the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association, and or, you know, of course, we have our own association that we're part of as well, so.
Well, ours is actually, ours MMPA is not an association, that's an
It's
agency.
agency, okay.
Yeah, so that's a joint powers agency.
So which is a functioning, it's an operation.
It's an operational entity.
Versus MMUA, which is like a consortium of, or you can join and be a member,
Mhm.
like LNC.
It's a membership organization. Yep. Yeah, so American Power Association is sort of the national power association. There's two benefits to us being a part of that. The first one, and it's in that actual bill, it talks about basically what they do is they're the ones that nationally keep track of our reliability rates. So, you know, keeping track of our uptime on electricity so that we know how we compare to other utilities that are out there. So they're sort of the clearinghouse for that. They also do lobbying on our behalf at the national level, which has become much more important just given the changes that we're seeing in moving to carbon-free electricity. MMUA does two real functions for us. The first function is they are the state lobbying agencies, so they do the same thing as APA at the state level. The second thing they do is they provide a lot of our safety training and loss safety loss operations for us. So to make sure that our linemen are trained to the right industry standards and that we're consistent with other utilities that are out there.
So the state one has actually a lot of like more, you know, I guess more
More operational stuff.
operational kind of benefits to that one. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you. Then the second question I had was for on page 34 under West Creek Apartments. There's an item that says reimburse Met Council. What was that one for?
So Met Council was not reimbursed. Met Council was the one that provided a grant to the West Creek apartment project. In order for that grant to be received, they have to have a local government actually be the conduit for that. And so we receive the dollars and then we remit them to the project once, and the reimbursement is they can't get the dollars until they've actually spent them.
And so we're basically the pass-throughs.
We're the pass-through. Yep.
Thank you very much. I've got it.
Anyone else? Motion to pay the bills. Motion by Councilmember Long,
Second.
second by Councilmember Howard to pay the bills. Discussion? Elise?
Councilmember Hatfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Howard?
Yes.
Councilmember Wong?
Aye.
Councilmember Graf?
Yes.
Mayor Winchell?
All right, moves to other business. Councilmember Hatfield.
Not a ton. April's kind of a light month. Just want to comment, we had our department head council retreat, a week ago, a while ago. I can't remember how long ago, but it happened. It was, great. I'll be excited to kind of see the final results of whatever happened on all the papers that we got. I shouldn't say whatever happened, the results of what actually made the papers at the end. But excited to see that and just grateful for the staff and it was probably my favorite retreat of the 5 I've been a part of, and it was just a really good meaty. I was exhausted at the end of both days because used my brain so much. So which fun fact makes you tired. So it was just good and grateful for our staff that are participate and the +1s that got to come from the different departments and how they contributed. So but I mentioned it on social media and excited, like I said, to kind of share the results once we get them all pen to paper. So that, and then really lots of park and rec events coming up. So highly encourage looking at their Facebook, things like the Earth Day in May, which I mentioned last time on May 4th, bike rodeo on May 5th, and they just kept going. I didn't even want to say them all because there's so many. So I'm just going to say, go to the Facebook because they're all there. So, or the website. I'm sure they're there too. And other than that, that's it from me.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hubbard.
I didn't really have anything. I echo the thoughts of Councilmember Hatfield in regards to the strategic retreat. The only other thing was that her mention of some other things was just to comment that the Chaska PD had also marked that one of our officers had retired after 26 years of service. So Officer Greg Reinhardt, and just wishing him a happy retirement and thank you for the contributions to this community. They're greatly appreciated, and just kind of wanted to point that out. But otherwise, I don't have anything.
Oh, thank you. Good
You know, the
report.
best thing about Officer Reinhardt, he was a LeSueur graduate.
Yeah, it's just, I'm sure it's a challenge. Kind of been there after, 26 years being in there and then just step away. It's kind of a different thing. Not that it's any different than anybody else's job, but it's a very important job for our community, and we wish Greg well in his retirement. So
Yeah.
thank you.
We can all drive a little faster. No, I'm kidding. He was really good at traffic stops. He got me a couple times.
But everybody else is still on duty.
I got it.
While we're confessing here.
All right, Mike.
Let's see. So, so I also echo Councilmember Hatfield and Hubbard and the council retreat. So, it's, really excited to see what the summary is for that, and it's really exciting. And also congratulations to Dr. Reinhardt's retirement, well deserved. On Friday, April 12th, which is a week from Friday, it's the Chaska Bash. It's a fundraiser for Chaska High School that's coming up. I believe it's sold out at this point, but just want to give a shout out for that. So in case tickets do become available, but it's a great fundraiser for the school. The Rotary and Lions are having a tree planting on Saturday, April 20th at 8 a.m. at Lions Park. So I believe there'd be trees available and for people to help plant some at Lions Park. Christmas in May, it's the Saturday, May 4th, meet at 7:15 at St. John's. I think traditionally we've met at Guardian Angels, but this year's at St. John's. And then the following day on Sunday, May 5th, there's a ribbon cutting for the Loop, which is having its grand opening. So it's really exciting there. And of course, Taste of Chaska's Wednesday, May 8th, and River City Days is Friday, July 26th through Sunday, July 28th. And I think that they're doing monthly public, listening sessions or open houses for to meet with the board. So if anyone wants to be involved or volunteer, or if you're interested in just like finding out more how to, have a booth there, or whatever, they do have those. They're posting those on Facebook. So anyone who's interested, oh, and there's a shout out, and I think you also have, and also this too.
Somebody should mention that.
Someone should mention that.
Yes, this is also thank you, council member colleagues for this is also the Highway 41, Highway 10 project, open house public meeting. And it's on Wednesday, April 10th, 2024 from 4:36 PM at the Chaska Community Center. So if you are interested in providing feedback or just learning more about what's going on with Highway 41 project and Highway 10, this is a big project. So, so please plan on attending. That's, Wednesday, April 10th from 4:30 to 6 at the Chaska Community Center. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councilor Graf.
Just one thing, just a shout out to some amazing students at the Chaska High School with the RoboHawks who placed exceptionally well in St. Louis in the robotics competition. And they're actually going to compete in the World Championships, which are in Houston, Texas, which is pretty cool. I mean, just to think about the perspective of different ways you participate in a high school environment, and the up and coming robotics continues to grow. And definitely in my day job, I really encourage and support STEM related professions and careers, and soon to be engineers. So super exciting to see them be successful and inspire future engineers in the world. So good luck to them in Houston.
I think one of the most impressive things is that they took a school bus to St. Louis. That'd be a long ride on a school bus.
Yeah, that is a long.
Well, we'll see what happens.
We're young.
It'll be a longer ride.
Yeah.
So it was a shot. It was really good. I mean, we talk a lot of times about different events and people participate, and so it was exciting. Some of the local news groups picked it up and saw it on TV just last night, actually, at the 5 o'clock news. So CBS had it and different things. John Lauritsen was reporting it. So coolest thing about John Lauritsen, not a video. His dad was my librarian.
Oh,
So
there we go.
as long as we're throwing out names here, connections, just not throw that out. He's watching. All right. So that is all I have.
You good there, Mr. Montevideo?
His dad was my librarian in the public library. Great guy.
You realize this is a Chaska City Council meeting?
All right. Thank you for that report. Nate,
I don't have anything to add.
Elise,
Nothing.
going somewhere?
Yes.
Just checking.
Why don't you report it to the 1.2 million people?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Matt,
Just to, I think Elise put it in the biweekly, last week when I was gone, but, we got the $1.5 million for the Emergency Operations Center, which is obviously perfect timing, with the, fire department being, built. And we actually have a special guest, our publisher is gonna come tomorrow at 11:15. Up at the fire station to actually recognize us for that. So nice. Yeah. That's it.
right? I just had a couple things, a lot of the things have already been echoed. I'll be curious to see what comes out of our retreat, because it seemed more broader, and see how they take Richard and Irene Fersman, how they can narrow that down into what we're gonna focus on. So it is it's 2 days, and like Councilmember Hatfield said, it is exhausting to do that. So I'll be interested to see how that comes out. You already got the robo. So have you got any more on the missing middle housing stuff? Have we heard any more? Do we need to be doing more? I read in the local paper that it said our representative was supporting us, but he's not supporting us. So I actually reached out to him and said, where are you? I'm confused. And at first he said, where'd you read that? And then I got it to him and I haven't heard back. So, but I'm just wondering if we need to be, or I need to be doing more. Cause that will have a big effect on our future.
There's a pretty concerted effort going right now with the League of Minnesota Cities and Metro Cities as well. And I know Nate's been part of I don't know if they're calling it a task force, but really sort of talking about what's going on and what are some things that we could do to to support that, I, I think the unfortunate thing is I think something's gonna happen regardless.
Well, it's gotten this far that it's getting a hearing and it. I don't understand it. If all of the constituents, I shouldn't say all, there must be somebody in favor of it. I'd say a large percentage of constituents are against it. And to vote it in would be just, I don't know. I mean, it's gonna change the landscape of every city around. I mean, not tomorrow, but as you move into the future. Because I mean, for anyone that's not sure, it changes, it takes away our ability to do zoning. So basically, Nate, help me if I'm wrong. I can be living in a single family house here. Somebody could buy this house, take it down and put an apartment building, if it fits within the lot. Is that correct?
Yep.
So where
Yeah,
before.
When you say apartment building, it's like a 150 unit thing, right? But yeah, it would be a multi-unit apartments or something.
But it could be a
Yep.
fourplex where
Yep.
in our zoning, that wouldn't be allowed. So it basically, it takes away our ability as a city to help you as a resident. And that's the hard part. It's a challenging part of this thing and it's kind of scary because it's getting that momentum. And so that's why I just thought I'd ask and see, and we probably really haven't talked about it. I know it's open forum here, regarding that, about how devastating that could be to communities moving forward.
I think we did kind of just
We
for
did.
awareness, we did have a pretty,
Oh, you know what? I probably wasn't here.
right.
Sorry.
It's okay though.
But anyways, I was just curious if there's anything that needs to be done or left to be done, so.
I think what I'm hearing from the league is, the thing that cities can do is what you have been doing, right? Is having communications with the legislators. There was the letter to the editor that was published, right? And we also had the letter that city council submitted. So I mean, you've been expressing your points. I think that's really what you can do. So, that's kind of the ongoing effort going forward.
Okay.
I mean, does it help for like residents to write the representatives too? Because I mean, presumably there's people watching this who are like, well, what can I do?
Yeah.
Right? Because and I think it's also important to point out in the context of this conversation too, that I think that based on where it's sitting now, they're kind of re-allowing residents to have a public hearing, but it kind of is a useless public hearing because we can't do anything about whatever the public says. It's just to be able to speak their minds, but there's nothing that we as council would have power to change based on the way that the legislation is drafted today. Correct?
That's my understanding, and it's been changing, right?
It's
So
changed almost every
trying
day.
to keep up with it has been a trick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the idea, right? Is that higher density of housing is allowable by right. And with the goal being to open up those opportunities. And so you're on the right track. And I think, if residents have concerns, I think that's a good piece of advice, is to have them voice that to their legislators, just like, anything, right? So.
I think that was an important piece of having all the mayors come together and do that piece in the paper, is that I think for a lot of people out there, because you hear the term missing middle, you're like, what does that mean? And it's also been sort of promoted as being a tool for affordable housing. And, that's just a piece of it. And so I think it's such a big, complicated issue that I think a lot of people just have no idea that it's even being discussed. And so I think having that out even in our local sources, like that, I think helps. And then hopefully people, if they have concerns, will write in, to express those concerns. But I think that's the thing, I think you said it best, is that it's not going to have an impact, immediately. It's going to be an impact that people experience 5 years down the road or 6 years down the road, when something happens next to them, they're just like, how can this be? When I bought my house, it was this. Well, yeah, well, that doesn't matter anymore because our local zoning ordinance is overridden by state statute. And so, I think it's gonna be one of those types of things that sort of sneak up on people.
And this is not something new. We've been, I know as a mayor's group, we've been following this for 4 years.
Yeah.
They've been year after year trying to get a hearing on it. Well, now they got a hearing on it. So apparently they've been somehow getting momentum. And I think the biggest thing is what you had said, that there are people thinking that this is just affordable housing, but it's not. It's not gonna solve that issue. It might help some, but I don't think that's the solve. I think it's gonna turn kind of not so good.
But I think it's important I mean, if I were making the argument for local control, I'd say that, we already have things put in place by the Met Council that says we're supposed to meet a certain amount of affordability criteria. The issue hasn't been that there isn't something out there. The issue has been that nobody's been willing to use a stick to make cities do it. And so there's been cities like Chaska that actually have done some of this stuff. So some of the things that they're talking about putting accessory units in back of homes, we've done that. We have that in Clover Ridge. About putting apartments or higher density housing intermixed with bigger housing to reduce prices. We've done that. We've put apartment buildings within single family residential lots. We've done that. And because of that, the Met Council's used the carrot of the livable communities funds to be able to encourage people to meet their goals or their what they're supposed to meet by saying, hey, you're going to score higher on your livable communities dollars. We've gotten all kinds of grants through the livable communities fund because of that. We've always ranked one of the higher ones in the metro area. The issue has been the stick. When cities say, no, we don't want affordable housing in our community, or we want there to be all similar types of housing or whatever. It's been the inability to enforce those standards in all the communities that have really created the issue. And I think it's really a shame that everybody gets thrown into this because there's a few cities that aren't doing it.
All right. Well, thanks. While you're still talking, do we have any update on Cooper's? Anybody that we can share?
The only thing that we probably can share at this point is that there has been a grocery store use that has had some interest in the building. Whether or not they're going to move forward with something, we don't know, but that's the last that we heard.
Well, I think that's at least a piece of information that there's something there. I just was wondering how much could come out publicly yet at this point. I know that it's still.
That's actually, that's all we know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know that it's an interest. That doesn't mean anybody's coming or not coming, so.
Yeah.
But the fact is that staff put a lot of effort in looking for, for grocers that'd be interested in that. So hopefully that comes out with a positive outcome and we see something or hear something as we move forward here. So. And then have we heard any more about the old KFC? I heard it was sold, correct? Somebody said that?
Yeah.
It sold last October.
Have you heard from the new owners? Any interest whatsoever? Nothing now. Wow. Seems be nice to get take that site taken care of. That's
Well, there's been 2 people now that spent a lot of money and done nothing so far.
I know. It's so. All right, and I think the other big thing that the public's talking about, Costco's putting steel up for the roofs, so that's a step in the right progress. There's a lot of roof up already. moving forward, I don't know if anybody's heard it. I heard what, early fall? Kind of?
Yeah.
Mid-fall,
Really
fall?
I kind of want to be up and going, so.
They probably want to be open by Christmas and Thanksgiving. would
Yeah,
be
for
my
sure.
goal.
You know, those buildings, once they get moving, I think you're gonna start seeing some, you know, that building really come to shape. And I've never been in a Costco.
Are you serious?
I know I'm weird.
What?
You know what?
I'm told they're pretty
We're
simple
going
inside
tomorrow.
though, so the
It's
build out is
okay.
quick.
I think we need to go get you a hot dog.
No, no.
That.
Gourmet.
I'm told they're very simple
Stay
inside, and
innocent.
so,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're-
that build out goes quick, so.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah,
Simple but excellent.
I'm not saying simple's bad.
We used to, when I was working at the fire department, we used to go to Costco and get them hot dogs, and now I look at them and it's like, can't do it. I cannot do it.
Did you hear they're putting a crackdown on that though? You have to have a membership in order to eat at the food court
I
now.
thought you did
I
anyways.
thought you always had to.
That's one of the.
Apparently
I
you
didn't know you
One of
didn't.
the perks is that you didn't need to. so-
Apparently you didn't, but now you.
Really?
Yeah, that's the one thing they didn't.
I'm already a member. So
I'll be a member anyway.
All right, we're gonna get out of here by 8. No, we're not. I see them just coming in for more meetings. All right, I think that's all I have. Our next meeting, we're back on track, so it'll be the third meeting, what?
15th.
The 15th, so we're
And
back.
I think we're gonna have to have a meeting on the 29th too.
What?
Oh, bummer.
So it's a five Monday month, so we are always open for that 5th Monday, whether or not we have to have
We
one.
didn't necessarily want to, but sometimes we have to do things.
Yeah, it's a have to thing,
Yeah.
so. All right, with that, last call, otherwise I would entertain a motion.
One question. So any, like, since you're asking about KFC and the other site, anything come up with the Town Place Suites? And anything do with that? Cause I remember it was purchased. at auction
Don't
or
even
something.
say sweet.
Or Town Place, whatever that was.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons we're having a meeting on the 5th Monday of the month.
Wow, foreshadow.
Your brain there. so,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah. Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Wong, second by Councilmember Hubbard to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign before 8 o'clock, but we do have a meeting following.